am joined from the White House by Shaun Donovan. He's the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. Mr. Secretary, thank you for the time. Appreciate it. We just heard the president mention this new initiative briefly out west. Tell us more about it. And is it an acknowledgement that the programs that are already in place just haven't been sufficient?
Well, Peter, if you look at where we were a year ago, the average American homeowner had lost $80,000 in home equity. And we put in place a broad spectrum of programs that have turned the tide. And in fact, from April on, the last 3 quarters of last year, the average American homeowner gained $12,000 in the value of their house. So I think we've been successful in broadly stabilizing the market. Housing prices actually went up last year when they were expected to go down 8%. But we still recognize that there are a set of places where the markets were hit so badly by the financial crisis that we need to do more in targeted ways. We've had national efforts, and this is really a targeted effort to take 5 states where housing prices declined by more than 20% and to work with them in ways that work best in those markets. The reason we went to these housing finance agencies is because the conditions on the ground in Las Vegas are different from the conditions on the ground in Detroit, where there may be longer-term foreclosure problems in some neighborhoods. They're much newer problems in others. And so housing finance agencies are the right partners to be able to work with us on those local issues and devise solutions that are going to work best in those communities.
Mr. Secretary, but how can you draw the line here? You have these 5 states you mentioned, but I'm not sure what state number 6 is, but I can imagine they're going to be knocking on your door.
Well, look, we have a comprehensive set of initiatives. As the crisis is evolving, I think you'll see that we're going to have additional initiatives that reach a broad range of places. So my answer to them would be we have to recognize that this problem is concentrated in a set of states that have been far and away the hardest hit, but we have a broad set of national programs that are working everywhere as well.
We did get numbers today with regard to foreclosures. There was some improvement in terms of delinquencies, but at the same time, a record number of people at risk of losing their homes. Mr. Secretary, is it safe to say that, again, some 2 years into this crisis, even more when you look at the housing situation, we are still far from turning the corner?
Well, what I would say, as I said earlier, is there's no question that the efforts that we made, the initiatives we put in place, have stabilized the market. Housing prices turned around when they were expected to drop last year. But we also recognize, and you talked about the foreclosure numbers, that there are still far too many people that are underwater and at risk of foreclosure. I think the silver lining in the numbers that we saw today is that the early stages of foreclosure, those that are 30 days or 60 days, those numbers are starting to drop significantly. And I think that shows that there is light at the end of the tunnel. But as I said earlier, we were going to continue to expand the efforts that we're making. We now, a year in, have 1 million people who have benefited from modifications, $2.2 billion in lower payments as a result of our modification efforts. And I think you'll see in the coming weeks that because the housing crisis has continued to evolve and being driven more by unemployment, more by negative equity, that we're going to evolve our programs as well and be able to get to what remains of this problem out there.
Mr. Secretary, the original target for those modifications, as I recall, was 4 million homeowners. As you said, as the Treasury has acknowledged, the target number for permanent modifications still right now, as I understand, a little bit over 100,000. Is that 4 million figure still reachable?
Well, we said that we would get to 3 to 4 million over 3 years. The pace of having done 1 million in the first year puts us on track towards that. The permanent modifications, we had some initial issues in terms of getting those loans converted. What we have seen is a big ramp up in the last couple months as we've really focused with the servicers to get their processes fixed. And we're now at the point where we have over 110,000 permanent modifications completed. But in addition to that, 78,000 more that have been approved and sent to homeowners that we're just waiting to get back signed from them. So almost 200,000 completed modifications from the servicer side. That is a more than doubling of what we had seen in the prior month. So we feel that there's real momentum now on the permanent modifications. We've got to get that number higher. We're going to keep pushing on it. But we think we are on track to keep our promise of helping 3 to 4 million people over 3 years.
Mr. Secretary, are you satisfied with the performance of the servicers to date? There was this threat of penalties on some banks, lenders, if they did not step up and do a better job here. Are we going to see those?
I would say it's mixed at this point, the performance, to be honest, Peter. We've seen some servicers that have improved and are getting to a significant share of their borrowers that are at risk. We have others, frankly, who are not performing. And we are comprehensively looking at those portfolios. And I think you will see us penalize those servicers who aren't performing. We signed contracts with them. They promised that they were going to do these modifications along the lines that we laid out. And frankly, we have some who just aren't getting to the number of people that they should be. So I think you will see us follow through on that promise.
Mr. Secretary, you care to name any names?
At this point, I'd say those reviews are still going on. I'm not going to name any today. But as I said, you will see us follow through on that promise.
One final question, Mr. Secretary. The $1.5 billion the President talked about today, this is again coming from TARP funds, is it not?
That's correct. One of the things, when the Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, announced that we were going to stop most of the programs in TARP, he said that there would be 2 continued areas where we would focus: small business and housing. And this is one of the ways that we are continuing to attack the housing problem, using funds, as Congress intended, to try to make sure we keep homeowners in their homes.
Housing Secretary Shaun Donovan joining us from the White House. Mr. Secretary, thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you walking us through this latest initiative from the administration. Mark and Julie, back to you in New York.